And we're back with another edition of the Cosmic Crossfire. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate you sticking around and enjoying the program. But it wouldn't be a Cosmic Crossfire without my good friend. He is the man, the myth, the legend behind Rob McCallum Films. You got to check out all of his great projects today on robmccallumfilms.com, including the upcoming project that he has now available on Kickstarter that you can go and help support. It is Galaxy of Hope, an unauthorized Star Wars documentary that will help out so many children out there, so many individuals that are so looking forward to this. It is just truly great that he's actually going ahead and doing this with his best friend, Jay Bartlett. It is my good friend as well. It is Rob McCallum. What's going on, my friend?
Oh, not much. Another day in paradise, as you like to say. Just hitting the Kickstarter campaign trail really hard and talking to a lot of different people that are excited to be a part of it, and just putting a lot of time into that kind of stuff. You know how it goes.
I know how it goes indeed, especially across social media. You have been extremely active. In fact, you have gotten the help and assistance of a lot of well-known Star Wars celebrities in your cause to try and get people aware about the great Galaxy of Hope Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah, Mark Hamill has liked 3 of our tweets now officially. We have Dave Benison on board, who created Luke's walking stick in The Last Jedi, and he's created a custom replica that's going to be part of the project. So that's cool. We have Michael Giacchino, who did the score for a lot of different Pixar films, and of course Rogue One. And just now we shared that Charles Soule, who did the writing on Anakin and Obi-Wan, Darth Vader, and the new book on Poe, he'd retweeted to all his followers as well. So there's no shortage of support from people in the actual Star Wars universe or tethered to the creation of it. Just need a little push from all the fans out there that want to see a cool Star Wars documentary and want to dig into some of the cool Star Wars collectibles out there and see the impact it's going to have on kids that work with charity foundations, and just basically see that really life-changing impact that every dollar we raise can help.
And if you could just go into really quick detail a little bit more about Galaxy of Hope and why it's so important that people need to go ahead and back this on Kickstarter.
It's pretty simple. I mean, it is another Quest movie, so in that regards, it's somewhat of a spiritual successor to Nintendo Quest, but it's really about making an example of fandom for good. You know, using the force of fandom for all the good things. We hear a lot of stuff about fandom being negative, and people in their own corner, and they want to own different things, and it's their thing to love, and you can't have any opinions on it. This is the opposite of that. This is us fans coming together as a community to help those who can't help themselves and who need the help for the greater good. This is like using the force as the underdog rebels to overcome that shadowy empire that gets us all down. But in this case, it's illnesses and diseases and circumstances that children can't do anything about. Their way of living is not like what we're dealing with. And our patient ambassador, Andy Morrison, she has an ailment that requires blood transfusions every 3 weeks. So she's 10 years old. She's had 150 transfusions in her life that take a long time to do, and that's just part of her day to day. So when we sit there complaining about whether this happened in this movie or this wasn't good enough for me, it's stuff like this that really puts it in perspective. And she's a huge Star Wars fan. Her dog's name is Jedi. So it's really nice to be able to connect with her on that level, and that's all she cares about. She doesn't look at herself as someone who has a lesser quality of life or anything like that. But I know through our efforts with myself and Jay and everybody on board, including you backers, we can improve her life so she can enjoy, something of a better echelon than what maybe she's used to right now.
And again, the auction and collectibles that are raised from this outing that you can help support today on Kickstarter to document this as far as the search for all these great Star Wars collectibles, that the proceeds from the actual auction that they would like to go ahead and do for the Star Wars collectibles that are all gathered up go to the Children's Health Foundation. And again, to help children, like you were just mentioning just now, that are in need, that are going through a daily life that definitely deserves a helping hand. That's just great indeed. And again, you can help support it today. Just search for Galaxy Hope on Kickstarter. It comes right up. It's Galaxy Hope, and an unauthorized Star Wars documentary just pops up right there. Pick a tier that's out there, whether you want the full DVD, the Blu-ray, the direct download. Do you want to have a name in the credits, associate producer? Do you want to be at the auction? I mean, there's several different tiers that are out there. Choose one to your liking and help support this great cause today.
And we've been talking with a potential backer. They're going to jump on in the next day or so, from what we understand, and they're going to snap up a key sponsor credit, which is our highest reward. It's about $1,000 US. And what you get for that is, in this case, this is a toy shop, I believe, where they're going to have their toy shop appear in the credits before the title. So it'll say, Pyre Productions presents a film by Rob McCallum in association with, I don't want to say the name of the shop in case it doesn't go, but John's Toy Shop. Then it'll say Galaxy of Hope. So there's an opportunity to have some really great evergreen marketing for your store or your shop out there for life, which is pretty good. And we've done that on similar projects, and we know that people have watched our films and gone to these stores as a result of seeing that been featured in such a manner. So this is a good chance, and for only $1,000, it's pretty good marketing.
And this is someone right here who this is not his first film. He's not doing a student film or anything like that. This is someone who has a background with several different films, and you can check them out today on robmccallumfilms.com, like Kitty, Origins and Evolutions, which just blew the doors off of Amazon and sold out right away. Also, as well, you've got Missing Mom, which has done great on Amazon Prime. Of course, the big hit documentary, Nintendo Quest, and so many others. Box art is on the way, also as well, The Power of Grayskull. So Rob has been around this avenue, I think, once or twice. So definitely, if you contribute to this great cause today on Kickstarter, you'll definitely see a great product when it comes out on screen. But Rob, not only are we here to talk about Galaxy Hope, but we're here to talk as well about some great pop culture topics. So Rob, what's on your mind when it comes to pop culture?
Well, since Galaxy of Hope has been on the brain and I've been watching Kickstarter, I've been really deep into the statistics. I've been seeing where backers are coming from and the percentages and what rewards are making up different tiers and what people are gravitating towards. Crowdfunding is all about the stats on some level, especially when you launch a campaign. It becomes addictive. So on the Cosmic Crossfire, I've got 3 different stories that really involve numbers to see what you think about all of them. So the first one, we can finally say, without a shadow of a doubt, that The Simpsons is the longest running scripted show. Is it too long at 29 seasons? I think there's 635 episodes. It finally overcame Gunsmoke, and they did a nice little parody, that Fox Animation show. Can it get good again? And what would it take? So those were the big questions I had. So at 29 seasons, 635 episodes, where does this series really go from here? Can it get better? And or on the other side, what's it going to take to cancel it?
Well, I think at some point in time you have, well, first of all, you have a regular audience that watches week in and week out. You also have a fluctuating audience that, similar to what I do with The Walking Dead, just based on the storyline or maybe the certain episode, will come in and come out depending on as far as what's going on, because the series has been so long now. Shows like that, South Park, and again, The Walking Dead, you're just gonna have people like me. They're just gonna come in and out because we've got life, things of that nature, and also interest in the actual shows themselves waver in the course of time, over the course of time. I don't think you're going to be able to get Simpsons at the height it once was ever again. I think it probably will end at season 30 because, first of all the characters are now a lot older 30 years later. I know there's a lot of talk about Hank Azaria and one of his characters, Apu, that I believe is going to probably not be around much longer because of the controversy that has emanated from that character. I know for a fact that 30 has been talked about, year 30 has been talked about as probably being the end. It's not 100%, but I know people would be interested in seeing that last season or those last few episodes if that was the case, and Fox officially announced it. But also as well, there's changing ideals and changing desires from millennials, younger audiences that don't sway toward the favor of The Simpsons as well.
It's really hard to say because it's become a generational show now, right? It crosses more than one generation at 29 years. It'll only continue to cement that gap that and act as a pop culture bridge between two generations the longer it goes on. It is something like Star Wars now, where up until episode 7, you could argue was really like a previous generation's trilogy or story to tell. And now with 7, 8, and 9, and Han Solo and Rogue One, and of course the continued animated series really feeding the youth, it continues to be a multi-generational show. I mean, heck, Ninja Turtles are multi-generational at this point, having debuted I think in 87 and never really been off the air in some regard, going strong since. So there's another one that you can wonder, like, is this over? Nickelodeon just reboot that. It's not the same series over and over again, but it'll continue to have its same presence. I don't know the answer to this. I mean, South Park is over 20 seasons now itself. That is bordering on a generational show. And I think the difference, at least with South Park and Simpsons, is South Park continues to really hit the quality mark. It's not as timely because a lot of their jokes are really almost like a late night TV, or like very focused on what's going on in the world at that moment. So in 20 years, when you look back at what's happening in season 20, it's not going to hit you in the same way that, say, the first 10 seasons of The Simpsons are, because those are just funny jokes and it's just funny circumstances that everybody can relate to.
And that's why The Simpsons itself does so well in syndication over something, let's say, like a South Park.
Yeah, I 100% agree. But you could even just see the quality of writing, at least with South Park, go up a notch. So even if you're out of the loop on what's going on the inside joke, it's written better, it's animated better. So there's that going for it. I don't know the fate of The Simpsons. I mean, I don't think anybody does in a world where there's streaming and royalty deals to be made off that, and acquisitions between big companies. It's a massive library, and probably, well, other than Gunsmoke, the biggest TV library out there for a single show. So that's a lot of money that can get passed around a lot. So why wouldn't you continue to grow it if you're Fox? Even if you are maybe losing on the broadcast side, you're going to make it up on the other side, on the digital side, I think, down the road. I think it only makes sense.
Those are the same questions I've been asking about The Walking Dead, because it's lost over half of its audience, but still makes a ton of cash in syndication.
Yeah, and that just makes sense, right? Because it's not all about the one set of numbers. It's about the multiple sets of numbers, the bigger picture, the broader perspective of what's going on. When you look at a series, you have to look at it as the first shot of those trailers, the big drone shot of the whole landscape. That's what you have to look. You have to take it all in, whether you like it or not. You have to take it all in. I think it's good for The Simpsons to be running that long. I think it's great that they can turn over that many teams of writers and animators and directors and have that many different kinds of celebrities on there. And it still has an appeal and has a place. I think much like the Flintstones and Scooby-Doo that were previously long-running animated shows, when this goes off the air, it's going to feel like there is something that's missing. And who knows, it could come back after, like Futurama did for a few more seasons, or Family Guy for that matter. I think there's a lot to be said about The Simpsons. I think it can always be redeemed. I think it just comes down to great writing. And when they get back to those stories of human emotion and heart, instead of slapstick comedy for the sake of slapstick comedy and being wacky and weird, that's when the show is going to get back on its course. So just my 2 thoughts.
I definitely agree on that. But I have a feeling that Fox may just go ahead and call it a day at season 30, because I just think at some point in time, the actors themselves that voice these characters that we've come to know and love at some point in time are getting close to retirement age, if they've not exceeded it already. So that's also something to consider. And putting new voices in there may not have the such a great effect.
Well, I mean, that's something we've talked about the Muppets off and on, and we know that a lot of those characters have had new voices over the tenure of their life, love it or hate it. But it's you can't own a character, right? You can always replace the voice. But I agree. I mean, they can either kill the character off so that that voice isn't a thing anymore, or retire the show as a whole. I think for the actors, I think it's a nice stable thing to have in the background, so they don't have to worry about finding other work. Or I mean, I don't think anybody on that voice cast is really hurting too much after 30 or 29 seasons at this point. I would hope not, anyways.
If they made a smart deal, as or if their agents made a smart deal for them, especially when it comes to the back end rights with the syndication, now they'll be okay for quite a spell.
And I know Harry Shearer at one point, I think about 4 or 5 years ago, was having some issues with exactly what that back end deal was and how he was going to be compensated. And of course, Harry Shearer does Mr. Burns and Reverend Lovejoy and a few other characters, but he seems to be appeased as well. One massive topic that I think everybody is talking about in some capacity, and I think has even affected the Galaxy of Hope Kickstarter trailer and campaign, is Infinity Wars come out. And I know you and Josh had a really long non-spoiler free discussion about what worked and what didn't work in that film, and what you guys liked, and how everybody's pumped up and the hype around it. It obviously broke a lot of records as well this weekend. Do you have the numbers specifically offhand where we are now with how much it's made?
It finished off with $258 million at the U.S. domestic box office, which is a record, which beats the 248 from Star Wars The Force Awakens. So it is the all-time leader in first weekends in domestically and also worldwide. It not only exceeded expectations, it blew it away. People were saying maybe 480, 500. This went over $640 million worldwide in its first, 3-4 days, because it came out earlier in places like Australia and whatnot. About in its first 4 or 5 days, it earned over $640 million. So that is something, obviously that's overwhelming as far as that's concerned. Although the overseas, actually, one of the Fast and Furious installments earned more in that period of time, but combined with the domestic, the worldwide take for those first few days is larger than any other entity.
Yeah, I remember reading something about the Fate and the Furious being a little bit higher, of course, and I think it even made some IMAX records domestically, both in the number of screens it was on, and the fact that the entire film was shot with IMAX cameras was a first as well. It did really well on Thursday night, I believe, as well. Didn't it beat The Dark Knight on Thursday night alone for the midnight screening, which was the previous holder?
I believe so, but it fell, actually, no, on Thursday nights, it actually fell behind about 3 or 4 films, including Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows, I think part 1, if I'm not mistaken, and a couple other films. But it really made it back up on Friday and Saturday, where it scored huge dollars there. So that's pretty much where it actually gained all that momentum, word of mouth among just consumers and fans and audience members out there. That's pretty much the key to why this huge juggernaut came to be. So let's put it in perspective. It is already the number 2 film worldwide this year, and it did in 3 or 4 days.
And I got to tell you, this is not a film I was the least bit excited to see. And I found myself over the course of the weekend with everybody talking about it and the buzz being in the air, kind of saying, I kind of wonder what it's about. I kind of wonder what's going on. People are saying some surprising things about it that I didn't expect for them to say. Certainly, I think puts rest all the superhero fatigue discussion. I think there is definitely still an ample appetite for films that can do great storytelling, whether there's superheroes in them or not. But the question I've got, since we're talking about numbers on this session, is what can possibly overcome Infinity War now? Anything? Now, if we could go back and rewrite history and say that episode 7 and 8 hadn't come out, I could say, Gerald, well, the only thing that would ever break Infinity War's record is a new Star Wars film. Wouldn't it be great after 35, 40 years, a new Star Wars film comes out? Wouldn't that possibly break it? Well, that's not the world and the timeline we live in. Of course, Star Wars Episode 7 came out. It was huge, 248 million, like you said. Last Jedi still had a huge debut, 220 million. What do you do to break this? I mean, again, going back to the stats, 10 years of films led up to this one culmination.
And that's exactly part of the reason why it earned so much in its first few days, because like you said, this is a culmination of that, and a lot of people were invested in that. But also as well, there was a curiosity by those who haven't been following the MCU, and I noticed a lot of people were, there was either their first Marvel movie or one of their few Marvel movies that they've ever attended because of this event, and I think they wanted to be part of this event type atmosphere. When it comes to seeing something surpass it in the short term, Episode 9 is being hampered by the polarizing effect of Episode 8. Yes, we know J.J. Abrams is now directing it. He did such a great job as far as with The Force Awakens, which, you know, on par, it's a pretty good film. Not a great film, but the fact that it came out when it did after so many years, reinvigorating the Star Wars franchise. He did a decent job of that. He got the job done, so give him kudos for that. As far as what you think of Episode 7, that's notwithstanding, the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding, and the proof is right there money wise. When it comes to Episode 9, I do not think he's going to be able to replicate that type of performance, simply because the fact that Episode 8 has that polarizing effect, and people may, even if it's just a great, even if it's a great film, they will probably go ahead and maybe see it in its second, third week after the word of mouth comes to play.
It's a second sequel, right? So we know that you're going to have diminishing returns every time. You know, you're going to get everybody that loved The Last Jedi, and you'll probably get half the people that hated The Last Jedi, but a huge chunk of that. So if you look at those numbers, 220 million, you're going to get half of that, right? So you're going to get 110 million for sure. And then out of the other 110 million, you're going to get maybe 55. So you're going to get 165, maybe at best, with some curious people to see how it ends.
And there's only few iterations that are out there, few franchises that have buck those trends. I mean, we talked about the Fate of the Furious, the Fast and the Furious series. So that seems to go all over the place, and in recent years has actually gotten more powerful in what would be perceived as far as the downfall normally with other franchises when it comes to the 6th, 7th, and 8th movies in its installments. Also, as well, you can consider the Bond. Skyfall was what, the 23rd as far as that's concerned.
20
that was
something,
22nd, 23rd, and that was over $1 billion, making it the highest Bond ever. So those are rare occurrences. With normal film franchises, they have a tendency to maybe peak at a second or third and then go down from there. So the Transformers, for instance, that's probably a great example right there, with one that just seemed to, at this point in time, in its 5th or 6th installment, just seems to be going downhill. So there you go. So it's going to be hard for anything in the short term to surpass that kind of success. I don't see anything at this point in time, but who knows?
Avengers 4, I guess, could do it.
I don't even think Avengers 4 is going to do it. I really think that this was an event, and I think this is something that culminated 10 years. There is a lot of great feedback among the fans, but I don't even think Avengers 4 will surpass it, and I don't think it should be expected.
Well, let's call it Avengers 6 then, or whatever it is, and 10 years from now, the next thing, because at first I thought there was Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2.
It was originally stated as that.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and I guess that just changed, or I haven't seen the film, so I'm guessing it ends on a cliffhanger from some of the murmurings.
I will continue those murmurs because I have seen the film, and it does kind of lead into, okay, I'll for all better, I'm not spoiling anything, but I've read
the comic books, Gerald.
It is a part 1. It is a part 1 of 2, but it's just
it'll be interesting to see how they handle it, though, right? Because what I think the smartest thing that they've done in this universe is they have this big story that is all funneled towards this one film. Now, of course, we've had sequels within this. We've had Thor 1, 2, and 3, and Captain America, and Winter Soldier, and Civil War, which kind of felt more like an Avengers film, but it's actually a Captain America film. And of course, we've got all these other little tangents and Hulk and stuff like that. But all this kind of funneled into one thing. So now that we've had this big universal event, I wonder if they're going to stop and kind of go wide again, where it's okay, so Black Panther 2 is playing off this, so we're not talking about the big thing. It's kind of overshadowing everything that's going on, and we'll advance it a little bit. And then in the next Spider-Man film, we'll advance the big story just a little bit as well, until finally we get those films that are right on the spine to culminate one more time. So that, if, again, I haven't seen it, so this isn't a spoiler, if, all the Avengers die or something like that, you can look into like how they're dying or how they're being replaced over the course of the next 10 years and get put back together. And what's the case? What is the ongoing mystery? If the other one was, the Tesseract and these Infinity Stones and all that, what are the new little trinkets and these little, puzzle pieces that they're going to be able to kind of link all these other films together in the same way that Agent Coulson was in the early days, and then it became the Infinity Stones. What are they going to do going forward so that they can tell that culminating story? I think that would be some smart storytelling.
And I also want to lead in again, as far as what you said earlier, as in regards to a possible contender, James Cameron, with his continual critique about the superhero films and the superhero.
Okay, so this is where I'm just going to take my headset off before I hear you say those films that begin with A.
Well, but hey, I wanted to say this. I don't have any faith that the Avatar films, even though it should in theory, I know as Rob takes his headset off, it should in theory, you would think, 10 years from 10 years from the most successful film of all time, 10 years later, they're going to go ahead and bring out another one. You think, oh yeah, it's on the surface. Yeah, that's going to be doing gangbusters. It's going to possibly even make $3 billion. But you and I think, are both on the same wavelength here, that it will not come anywhere near where the original did, as far as from a success standpoint, not only in its first weekend, but thereafter.
I mean, of course, there's the Masters of the Universe movie with its ever-rotating line of directors that is sure to break records all over the place.
But, as far as Avatar is concerned, I don't think even that will surpass it. I think something else has to come about. Like you said, organically grow another Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I got it. It's the next Justice League movie.
Oh, my gosh. Don't even get me started in DC. Since we last talked about DC and where they were going, they've announced, 3 or 4 or 5 more projects since that,
Because they just want to remind people that they're still out there. That's
exactly.
They're just making announcements at this point.
They sound like a spoiled child in the corner. Me too, me too. Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. Don't DC look at Marvel.
Me too hashtag. Got it. It's the DC Me Too. Me too, DC. Me too.
But you don't seriously think, as far as getting back to James Cameron real quick, that Avatar 2 would be able to, at this point, because of the fact that it's not, and you and I both quoted this, has not left its cultural footprint with audiences like other films. And even though it did, become the best-selling, biggest box office hit ever, you and I both seem to not have the kind of confidence in an Avatar 2 reaching those kind of heights.
No, I really don't think it's going to go anywhere. I mean, I don't even think any of the Jurassic World stuff is going to even start to touch the numbers that are being seen here. Even if they decide to merge the Jurassic World universe with the other Universal monsters like King Kong and, Rodan and all that stuff, I don't think there's anything that you can do that conceptually that exists so far, other than maybe Galaxy of Hope, that will touch these numbers. There's nothing. What are you going to do?
Exactly.
How can you come up with something new that took 10 years to put on a screen and have a string of hits, unless you're going to do like the ultimate Pixar crossover? I just don't see it.
I don't even think a Pixar crossover could do it of that nature, even though you and I are both big fans of actually what the company has done. But Galaxy of Hope Galaxy Hope may do it, but people have to support it today on Kickstarter.
That's right. They can get their exclusive stuff that won't be available anywhere else. Become a backer today. Galaxy Hope on Kickstarter.com. Search it out. Last thing I want to talk about is something we frequently discussed as well. And that goes back to the world of streaming. And I think that's one other thing that will really, we talked about it with The Simpsons, and we can talk about it again with Infinity War. In the world of television and streaming and binge watching, you're going to get less and less theatrical entries. So when Amazon Prime announced a price increase to $119, I was left kind of wondering if that was a good idea or a bad idea. I mean, there's more and more streaming services coming out and being announced every 6 months, it seems. But maybe this is justified giving the shipping perk that comes with this that really separates Amazon Prime from the competitors. I mean, I look at it as the shipping perk because I have Amazon Prime to stream stuff. Most people have Amazon Prime to ship stuff, and they happen to get to stream stuff as well. So it depends what side of the camp they're on.
That's me.
Well, you got to check out Missing Mom. It's on Amazon Prime. So is Nintendo Quest. It's free because you've got it already. It's free.
I have.
It's $119 a year, but it's free.
But the price increase is something that I am upset about, from $99 to $119, because we have paid $99 for a little while now, and
they've even had specials where it was $79 on Black Friday sometime to sign up.
Yeah, and going back to $119 is not a wise move, especially Amazon's perception right now in the marketplace as being such a huge entity. People are saying, well, why do they need that much money? I'm just going to go to Netflix and go, or I'm going to go and get Movie Pass, or I'm going to go and get Hulu, or I'm going to do some type of options, because Amazon Prime, they've got some stuff, including The Great Missing Mom, but they don't have as much things as Netflix. So I'm going to do that instead. So a lot of people are saying those type of things and getting irritated because I see that online, because the fact that a jump from $99 to $119, that's actually a noticeable jump, especially for such a large entity.
Let's look at this, right? It's $120. That's $10 a month. How much is Netflix?
Netflix is what, about
$10 a month, but you don't get any of the free shipping.
That's true.
That seems pretty justified in that math alone. What's killing them is that it says $119 and not $119 or $10 a month, because they have a monthly version where you can pay $12, or you do $120 for the year. It's the same price as Netflix, except for you get free 2-day shipping. And most of the time, if you're living in Las Vegas like I was, it's a 1-day ship because of the factory that's there, or the warehouse. And I mean,
but if you want to use it as a streaming option outside again of Missing Mom, the options are not as plentiful as they are.
Yeah, but you say that, and let's not forget, there's a massive series that's coming on Amazon, and that's of course the Lord of the Rings series. You want to say, can you justify this to me? And like, yeah, there is a new Lord of the Rings, a la Game of Thrones style show coming, in addition to the Conan series we've talked about, and so many more things that are coming out. And I got to tell you, from a filmmaker's point of view, it is so easy to work with Amazon and Amazon Prime and their platform that I want to support them just because they make my life easy as a filmmaker. Missing Mom has done incredibly well. Almost every day I'm getting at least 1 or 2 messages from people that discover it. And that makes a big deal. I know authors go through the same thing when people discover their books and they read them on Amazon. It really helps with those metrics getting out there and helping these authors get discovered. So if you're watching stuff on Amazon Prime, make sure that you're rating these films. And the better that you rate them, the better that other people can find them. So
you know what? I will say this. Let me just say this, Rob. As someone who has been a Prime member, I think it would probably be really attractive, and a lot of people would not be barking at this point in time because the price changed, if it included the Kindle Unlimited. Instead, they're doing that as a separate thing, and I think that's probably something that's could be a little bit of like a kicker that would quiet a lot of those voices that are now barking about the price change for Amazon.
Another thing they could do similarly is loop in Audible somehow.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yes, that would be another great option.
I'm a huge fan of audible.com. I mean, you and I both listen to a lot of podcasts. In the past year or so, I've been really getting into audiobooks. It's been hard as of late, but when you're on a long drive, there's nothing better than listening to a good book on audible.com, which is, of course, an Amazon company now. So those are definitely options, and who knows? Everybody said that HBO would never be standalone, and then it went standalone. So anything can happen. Digital resources don't cost Amazon a lot. It would be nice to see everybody get set up with that. I'm a huge fan of Amazon Prime. I'll continue to support them, even though living in Canada now, our options are further restricted from what we get to see compared to what our American counterparts watch.
Or even as far as their association with Twitch, with the 119, get a premium package from Twitch, because Twitch is becoming a major entity in the streaming, and not just gaming streaming, not just pop culture streaming, but they're obviously you can get a lot of NFL games through not only Amazon Prime, but also as well through Twitch. They just made another deal to set that up. So it's just something a little bit more to put them as a kicker. And I would see a lot of the voices that I'm now hearing about the price change probably quieting as far as that's concerned.
I guess the bigger thing I was thinking too is, with all these other streaming competitors coming, are they offering enough value when somebody can say, spend $120 on Amazon Prime and stream very little, or spend $8.99 on CBS All Access or whatever it is, $5.99 I think, or Apple or whatever else. That's going to be a curious decision to see how much bang for a buck it's going to be compared to these other streaming outlets.
But the free 2-day shipping, I think that serves its purpose, but only at certain points of time. Holiday season, for when I was going to university and getting my bachelor's degree, I needed it specifically for a lot of books as far as being sent over in a quick and free fashion. So that was very helpful. I think for a lot of individuals that utilize the Amazon Prime as far as a shipping option, that comes periodically and not regularly. So maybe that's some type of distraction that they're forgetting about as far as it being a permanent option of this Amazon Prime. And even though it is definitely a great part of it, sometimes they forget about it, especially since the fact that it's gone up in price.
I agree. That'll do it for another episode of the Cosmic Crossfire. Those 3 topics, all number heavy, stats driven. Let us know what you think out there. Hit us up on Facebook, Pop Culture Cosmos, and on Twitter.
On Twitter, it's Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, Game Source, and and at Rob McZob on Twitter. Again, also as well, please support this awesome project, Galaxy of Hope. Just search it out on Kickstarter today, and you can go ahead and be a part of some great film magic that I know Rob and Jay would like to produce out there for you.
Appreciate it, Gerald. And hopefully we'll be back soon to talk more about Galaxy of Hope, the benefits of being a backer, and some really cool things in store.
Definitely looking forward to it. And Rob, as always, it's great having you a part of the Pop Culture Cosmos.